This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks show number 507, recorded on October 7th, 2021. Here on Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studios here in Bellevue, Nebraska. And of course, we post a show with some show notes. We'll have some this week. So if you want to head out there, theaverageguy.tv/HGG507, and you'll get access to the show notes. I want to thank you for doing that as well. Mike is out tonight, and if you haven't, if you're looking on the screen, if you're watching the podcast or listening to the podcast, you're not seeing it. But John Aydelotte is here with us, and John's a longtime listener, both for Home Server Show and then here at Home Gadget Geeks. Has been a big part of the meetups that we've done in the past. You're not too far from here, John. If we actually pull off a Home Gadget Geeks meetup, do you think you'll come out to Omaha?
It's one state away.
Yeah,
wouldn't be too
What's
bad.
a long state, though?
Oh, I know. I could tell you exactly how long it is. Just from this past summer.
Yeah. We'll talk about that here in a second when we get you in. Big thanks to Aaron Lawrence, who joined us last week. Aaron always brings a plethora of gadgets to the program. We talked a little bit about coffee last week, which was just delightful. I can never stop talking about coffee. No, I didn't buy a robot vacuum cleaner yet, although Ed Sullivan did. So Aaron called him out on the show and said, Ed, you need a vacuum cleaner. And he bought an iRobot on Sunday. So we'll have to check in with Ed and see how the robot vacuum cleaner. John, do you have you given in to either a robot vacuum cleaner or a robot lawnmower yet? Either one of those?
Vacuum cleaner, yes.
What do you got?
It's a Roomba, but like the lowest model. I think
like 450 or something.
I can't remember the number.
Yeah.
I got it on special last Christmas, and it's up at our. We have a mountain cabin about an hour and a half away near Estes Park, and it's a great little place, but it has this weird thing where these flies come from nowhere and just sort of get into the house, and then they die, of course, because there's nothing to eat.
Yeah.
And so this thing does a great job of just popping out every day or two and sweeping up all the flies, because it used to drive my wife nuts. We'd walk in and she's like, oh, there's all these flies everywhere.
Does it ever get jammed up? You get too many in there?
No, we just empty it when we get there, and it's fine.
Okay.
We also have one of those. There's a thing on the wall with a UV light in it and some sticky stuff in it that traps them, so that they get about half of them there, and the rest of them end up on the floor.
Yeah, I think that's a good use of it. I've had some friends as I've been talking about this. They're like, "Well, isn't vacuum cleaning, because I'm the vacuum guy at the house. Isn't that the only exercise you get?" Lately, it's like, yeah, kind of is. I think my daughter said this to me. She's like, "Do you really want to? The only thing you're getting exercise with, you want a robot to do it?" So the lawn is the same way. Like, I really do enjoy mowing my lawn. I'm assuming you're mowing your own at this point.
Yeah, except my wife doesn't want me to mow the lawn because that's one of her forms of exercise. She's been working at home for a year and a half now.
Nice.
Since COVID started.
Okay.
And she actually likes being able to get out there. We don't have a big yard. It's a city lot in Denver. So it's, you can mow the whole thing in 30 minutes or so, but she'll get out there for 15, 20 and just get a little exercise and go back to another meeting.
Yeah, no, it's a nice.
If I mow it, it's mad.
It's
a weird problem to have. But
hey, listen, it works, right? No, it works. I do enjoy mowing my lawn. I've said that, dozens of times here on the show. It would, I'd love to have a robot vacuum cleaner or a robot mower. And there's been some new ones this year that have come out that look really nice. But I get to them, they're a couple $1,000, and you're kind of like, I should.
For that, you could get a riding mower.
Yeah. And I don't need one of those either. Like, I have a push mower. It actually works really well. I can mow the yard in 45 minutes. Like, settle down there. In the Discord group this week.
You don't have an estate the size of
no
of Dave's.
No, he's got some, he has got some stuff to clear in the group, in the Discord group this week. Let me see if I can find the conversation. We were having a conversation about that, about spending on tech in general, and I said, I said, I really think I need to just save more and buy less. Easy to say. Schoonover kicks in and says, "Who are you?" And then Bust Out says, "It's like the real JC tech diet, right?" And I've been convinced there's been so many good things to buy, and I don't know if I need them all, John. You
I
can, you know,
I'm pretty sure Schoonover thinks that those words don't make a sentence in that order. It was a lot of fun actually listening to him on the podcast a couple weeks ago, and it was like he was sitting across the table from me at a meetup, telling me what he thought about stuff. It was kind of good to hear. It was just fun.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He's good to
Mhm.
have. John, one of the things I've always appreciated is just how great this community is that's around all this. Dave started it, and really Dave McCabe really fostered it, and allowed a lot of great people to come in, and many of them, or most of them, are sitting out in our chat room right now, and it was a great safe place to come and be, to enter at any level that you want. No
Not be
judgment.
judged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no judgment. Just a great group of guys and a few ladies along the way who or it was just a safe place to do tech. I've been thinking about rebranding, the average guy.tv and Home Gadget Geeks and some other things. And one of the phrases that came to mind was friendly tech, and just kind of thinking, because that's really what we are. Even today, it's still like the Discord group is super friendly. Anything we do, all the guests we have and all the Patreon folks, by the way, thank you for supporting the show on Patreon. Are great. Like, I just don't. There's never I don't think we've ever had a problem where we've had to say to someone, uh, type deal. So thanks for being a part of a great audience. I appreciate
No,
it.
that's what I liked about meetups too, is people could come at uh, all levels of knowledge, and there were no stupid questions. There was
Yeah.
no, you didn't get people going, "You're an idiot. You don't know how to do that."
Yeah.
I never heard that in a meetup.
No.
It was always a
No.
very welcoming,
Yeah.
friendly group.
Yeah. It's
It was
super
fun.
great. It was super great. Well, good to have you on. We want to talk a little bit about, you made a solo bike trip,
I did.
Denver to Milwaukee, which
Hmm.
was west to east
Hmm.
here in the U.S. You went the right direction. You went the direction of the weather, which is
Maybe.
which is, well, in most cases, right. It's moving across, doesn't it
I
move? Yeah, it
I
goes
think
west to east. Yeah.
Nebraska proved me wrong. The winds were
Did it
mostly
blow
southerly.
the other? Okay. Well, yeah, there are times. Well, first of all, tell us when and give us a little background on why. Why were you making this solo bike
Sure.
trip?
No, I have had a dream of riding across the entire country for many years. I've read about other people doing it and been inspired by, there's several people have written books about it. My favorite one, because of my age, is called Old Man on a Bicycle. Um, and I thought, if this guy in his 70s can do this, I can do that. And the problem was time. I don't have time to do that sort of thing. Um, but now I work in a school system, so I get several weeks off during the summer. And I thought, maybe I can do it in pieces. So this was the first piece. I decided to try the Midwest. I thought that'd be a little easier than trying the western third of the country with some hills. Um,
Yeah, I've gone valley to Tahoe out in California, and that's a 3 day just straight climb.
mhm,
It's all you do is climb. So
right.
I've done that. Yeah.
So I thought, I'm just going to try this. And so I set off about a week into June, intending to take about a month, which is what it took. Um, Went north to Cheyenne, Wyoming, turned east, and started working my way through Nebraska. I popped up to Scotts Bluff. And initially, I had intended to do about half camping and half motels. The first night I was supposed to camp was Scotts Bluff, and I got there and I found this campground. There's no trees.
Mhm.
It's 95 degrees. And I'm just like, God, this is going to suck.
Yeah.
Setting up a tent when it's this hot and then
Yeah.
trying to sleep in it. And then I thought, it was a Holiday Inn just back the road there. I'll go see if they have a room. And they did. And then later that night, lying there, I was thinking, I could just keep doing this and not camp because the weather forecast was more heat. And I actually stayed there 2 nights because I got up the next morning and the forecast was for 98 degrees and the wind was something like 22 to 25 straight out of the direction I wanted to go.
Mm.
And I thought I could spend like 10 hours that day just getting to where I'm supposed to. It's just going to be miserable. And I thought I'll just wait, see what happens. The next day I looked out and the flag that was sticking straight out was also sticking straight out, but the other direction. So I did 80 miles in 4 hours. And
that's the beauty of the Midwest. Just wait 24 hours and the wind changes. Yeah.
But there are a lot of southerly winds. Pretty much followed the Platte Valley, Platte River through Nebraska.
Which is the I-80 here in Nebraska is the I-80 corridor. That's kind of I-80 goes through, follows that same. But you stayed off of it. I'm assuming you took maybe Highway 6 or some
30.
Of those.
A lot of Highway 30.
Yep.
Okay. I had intended to take like country roads, but in a lot of cases, mostly in Nebraska, those would just turn into dirt or gravel. And I'm okay with a little bit of that, but when it would turn into like washboard gravel and everything just wants to shake off your bike, that wasn't fun. So I ended up gravitating back towards highways that had more trucks on them that I really liked, but at least I knew it was paved.
Right.
So I got to Kearney, Nebraska, and did a 5-day group ride there. There's a ride I've done before called the Tour de Nebraska. Not a race, just a ride. They kind of do a loop and end up back in the same place. That was fun. We had one day, high was 104. And we had
So this was last summer, 2020 or
2021.
2021. This last summer.
Past,
okay.
Yeah. 60 miles, mostly south, we're straight into this wind, and they had a lot of problems with people keeling over.
I bet they did.
They didn't have enough rest stations, I think, for the weather and the wind, and they had to sag about a quarter of the riders in from the back. It was kind of nutty. It got better after that, but I kept going after that solo. Crossed out of Nebraska, just north of you. Crossed the Missouri River into Council Bluffs, Iowa. Yep. The hardest day I had actually was climbing out of Council Bluffs up into Iowa. It had these short, sharp hills that you don't get enough speed going down to get back up the next one very far, and you're just grinding your way up. I think it was about 4,000 vertical feet that day. It was pretty tough.
Yep. Yeah.
Got to Dubuque, Iowa. I've got a sister there and spent an extra day resting up there a little bit. And then headed into what I thought was the best part of the ride, Wisconsin. They've got some awesome trails there. They're mostly railway conversions. So they're not real up and down, pretty even, and mostly shady, hard packed dirt. And the high was about 80 degrees. It was just heaven. So I could have done that all day for years.
Yeah.
This was wonderful.
Yeah. So how long was the total duration?
Total was about a month. I got to Milwaukee and spent 4th of July weekend with some friends there. My wife's from there. We used to live there, so we know people. Not my relatives. I didn't tell them I was there.
Well, you didn't tell me you were coming through Omaha. I would have bought you a bottle of Gatorade.
I was crossing that bridge. I'm like, I think Jim lives right down that way.
Not far. About 10 minutes.
And then I took the Amtrak home.
Oh, nice.
Amtrak, if you have a bicycle, Amtrak is a deal because you can add your bike to the ticket on certain routes, not all of them. $20. They take it and they put it in the baggage car in a rack, and you don't have to think about it till you get to the end, and it's great.
Yeah. So Amtrak from Minneapolis, then
Milwaukee down to Chicago, change trains, and then Chicago all the way to Denver is one train.
Yeah. That comes right through Omaha as well, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Did you? We took if you're watching the video, we took a good look at the bike. that you had. Anything you added to the bike as far as equipment goes or tech goes to do that? I mean, you could do this whole thing with your phone, right? I mean,
Good.
that's
Yeah.
kind of possible. Did you add anything to it?
My phone was mostly just playing music for me
Mm.
and podcasts.
Mhm.
I did have a computer on there called a Hammerhead Karoo 2. And the reason I got that one, as opposed to like a Garmin or a Wahoo, those are the main competitors, is that when you can put a SIM chip in and it has its own cell phone signal. And so my wife could check
Mm.
at any time, where is he? You know, is he still alive? Oh, he's moving. He's probably still alive. Or, gee, he's been in that ditch for about 3 hours. Maybe I should call someone. Something may be wrong.
Yeah.
But it gave her a little peace of mind to
Yeah.
know, okay, he's in the next town where he said he'd be. He's not where his old girlfriend lives. That kind of thing.
Did she check often on you just to kind
I
of
think,
see where you were at?
I think most days, yeah. She would just take a break from work and go,
Yeah.
where's he at? Pull it up on the iPad. Yeah, it's just a link that works on the web and pulls up a map with a little dot. There you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing I like about Hammerhead, they're a relatively new company. They have updates for that computer almost every week.
Oh wow.
They're constantly fixing bugs, and it just does an over-the-air update, painless. You don't have to like tie it to your computer and go through a lot of stuff. It just says, "Oh, there's an update. I'll download it." Okay, now I'm updating. There we go. We're done. And it's really easy.
Can you get the SIM from any of the carriers? Is that how that works? And so you can just go to your own carrier or
Right.
Google, and Google Fi, I imagine, would work with it.
It might. I'm on T-Mobile, so I just threw
Yep.
an extra chip in there from them, and it worked just fine. There were some areas where I had very little service, but I think that's just the rural part of Nebraska.
Yeah,
That's what
and
it is.
T-Mobile across Nebraska is not bad. There's I mean, with all the carriers, there's some spots, but it's
If you're
pretty
near
good
the
across
internet,
Nebraska.
or excuse me, if you're near the interstate, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once you get further from there, like
Yeah.
between Kimball and Scotts Bluff, there were some areas where I had
Yep.
nothing.
Yep. Yeah, you're pretty far west at
Mhm.
that point. You get in, you get closer to Cheyenne, it gets a little bit better. Ogallala isn't
Yeah.
isn't too bad, right? You get
Right.
across the North Platte or Kearney or some of those, Grand Island.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some stretches in there that okay, I got to ask you this though.
Mm.
Why did you like? I get that you're thinking about going across the United States, but what would drive you to go across the country for a month alone? Yeah, you're staying in hotels, but
Yeah.
what was there? What was the reasoning for this?
Hard to say. I have I've kind of been into bikes since high school. There were a couple of points in my life where I drifted away, but then always came back. I've been a bike commuter for years. I just
Mm.
kind of prefer getting around that way to being in a car. And so it was more of a can I do that question. Is
Mm.
I did it to make sure I still could. I had a little bit of a heart scare a couple of years ago with some health issues going on, and this was gee, can you still do that sort of thing? Can you get on a bike and ride for hours and hours? And it turned out I could. I had done some training around here, but not as much as I really should have.
Yeah.
And it turned out just fine. I was
You
tired a lot of days, but most of them I just got through and was fine.
did you ever at any point get halfway through it and you're like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever done?
Actually, no, that was day 2. I ran into so I'm going north from Denver. I got to Loveland, and then my next stop is supposed to be Cheyenne. So I'm between Loveland and Cheyenne, and out of Loveland, and then it's all frontage roads along I-25 going north, and that was fine. And then those stopped being paved,
Mm.
and it wasn't the good kind of gravel. It was washboard stuff, and I'm like, this sucks.
Mm.
And every couple miles, they'd have you go to the other side and continue.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got to an underpass. It was full of water.
Oh.
And it was really muddy water. I couldn't really tell how deep it was. Is it 3 inches
Yeah.
deep or is it
Yeah.
3 feet deep? I
Right.
don't know.
Right.
So I ended up having to portage my bike and my bags and to take everything off the bike, climb over some barbed wire.
Oh,
There were these pillars underneath there holding the road up, and you got a slope going up to the road. And on interstate underpasses, that's concrete. This was loose dirt.
oh,
So I kept sliding back down to the barbed wire. I'm actually amazed I didn't get holes in my leg.
yeah.
But it
Yeah.
took me like close to an hour to get all that stuff to the other side. And I'm just thinking, this sucks. Why did I do this? This was the dumbest thing I've ever done, exactly what you said. And
Yeah.
then I thought, but this is day 2. I can't quit on day 2.
No.
What's that going to look like?
Right.
And then I got to a little further along, and I just happened to look up, and there's a sign on the freeway that says, bicycles must stay all the way to the right. And I'm like, I can take my bike on the interstate. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So I pushed it up the slope and hopped on, and it was heaven. It was it's a fairly new part of the freeway. It was all smooth. It was a nice big shoulder, rumble strip in case trucks wanted to come my way. And after that, I was just flying.
Yeah, it's kind of nice, right? Yeah, all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait a minute, I can do some interstate on this.
Mm-hmm.
And there's probably did you start checking ahead to be like, okay, where can I ride on the interstate versus where can't I?
No, because I broke off from the interstate after Cheyenne. I really wasn't planning on doing anything along I-80. I was a little disappointed in my routing software. I use a website called Ride with GPS, and there's settings in there that says, do you want a gravel or mountain bike, or do you want road biking? And I was like, road. And it would still put me on these roads that would then turn to dirt. And so I'm thinking the software doesn't actually know that that's not a paved road.
Yeah.
It got better once I got into Iowa and Wisconsin. There were just fewer roads that were dirt. But
you almost need like ways for bikes, you know, where it Waze doesn't always get this right, but it does, you know, it does give some, you know, doesn't take it into, although I've had Waze take me through some really bad back ways that you're like, seriously? Like here? So you probably had some of those moments even on the bike where you're like, oh,
yeah, like, why this road?
And it just stretches as far as the eye can see.
Yeah.
Brian said probably some amazing pictures. Did you take photos?
There is a blog if you guys want to go look. It's called younger-on-2-wheels.com, which is sort of a description of how I feel when I'm on a bike. I get 30, 40 feet down whatever road I'm on, and you know, a grin comes on my face, and I'm just like, this is fun. I like riding. This feels good. And it's kind of, it rolls into, you know, when I bike a lot, I try and stay young as well. It's the way to sort of keep healthy. And if you go all the way to the bottom and then older posts after that, you'll get all the way to the beginning, and you can follow along 6 months later if you like.
Did you write at night when you got in? How did you decide when you were going to do a blog post? Was it every day? How'd that work?
Pretty much every day. There were a couple of days where I got busy, but I would catch up the next day. Usually what I would try and do is find a place with some decent beer. And that was surprisingly hard in some places and surprisingly easy in others. There were some towns I got into and only place open was some little bar. And I'm like, well, at least there's a few people sitting in there. It must be okay. What do you got on tap? Blue Moon.
Yeah.
End of story. I guess I'll have one of those. Because everything else was a Budweiser in a bottle.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, some of those small town bars. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I don't think craft beers really hit those areas yet. But there were other places. Kearney has a couple of places with like 40 craft beers on tap, a lot of them local. The list is so long, they won't even hand you a piece of paper. You got to scan a QR code with your phone to pull up a current list because it's always changing. But really amazing beers there. So I would try and find a spot where I could get a burger and a beer, and I would just use my phone to put in the post with some pictures.
Yeah.
And all the pictures are pretty much from my phone. So
Are the pictures as part of the posts then?
Yeah, if you click onto one, you should see some pictures.
Oh,
Yeah,
there we
there
go.
you go.
There we go. Yeah, the post I'm reading, this is what John should have wrote. It says Council Bluffs, Atlantic, Iowa. It says today dawned with rain and storms still moving through the Omaha area. So I had to wait until almost 9 a.m. to leave. And I could have had breakfast with Jim if I just would have called him. That's
You've never given me your number, Jim. So
no, I'm just
I'm sure
joking
that's
with you, John.
cool.
I have blown through cities that have listeners, and I haven't, I have friends that I totally get it. You're on a mission, you're planning this thing. I'm just joking with you, but this does give I wish I could blow that picture up a little bit. It's some good pictures. This is stereotypical Nebraska. The good news is it was really, really green this year. So
Oh yeah.
as you were coming across the country, it's kind of dried out now, but as you were coming across at least most of Nebraska, really, really green and probably pretty beautiful. A lot of hot days as you were traveling. If I remember June, lots of hot days, probably a little bit hotter than most. How'd you handle the heat?
I'm okay with heat as long as I can keep moving. It's when I stop and the air is not cooling your body down is when I start having issues. So as long as I can keep on the bike and keep going, I'm fine. I just got really kind of religious about stopping at every little tiny town I went through. Oh, there's a gas station. They've got, hey, lemonade. I like lemonade. It's cold. They've got water I can fill up with. They've got snacks. What's the Casey's?
Oh yeah. Oh
yeah. A
yeah.
lot of Casey's.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You get Casey's all both in Nebraska and Iowa. You get a lot of it.
What a great chain that is. Somebody I stopped with told me they're actually the fourth largest seller of pizza.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And it's deadly. It's deadly. It's deadly pizza.
You got pizza for breakfast.
But they got good breakfast pizza too. You're burning so many calories. I did this. I did a run with a guy one time. He was running across Nebraska the other direction, which was the wrong direction. But he was going from Omaha. He wanted to run the whole length of the state of Nebraska, so he started in Omaha. I said, you should have started on the other side. It's downhill. But anyway, so I ended up picking him up later. It took him about 3 weeks to run across Nebraska, and I ended up picking him up later and taking him to Denver. But I ran with him one day. I drove out, I think, to North Platte or one of those, and I ran with him for a day. And I think we did 15, 17, 18, 19 miles that day. But you're burning so many calories, you can eat whatever you want.
Oh, yeah.
So, well, you shouldn't, but you can.
I really wasn't worried about that. I thought I would lose a fair amount of weight, and it ended up only being about 5 pounds through that whole ride for a month. And I think what it is I added muscle and also dropped fat. So it was just basically redistributed. I didn't lose a whole lot, but it just moved around.
Well, you get endurance, when you're doing that kind of work, you get this endurance build that you don't gain or lose a lot. Your muscles kind of lean out even a little bit when you're just riding every day. So
I will say some of that's come back since I left. Since I got to return.
Oh, sure. Well, sure. Well, and you've got some chances. You're in Denver, so you can ride probably good chunks of the year.
Oh yeah.
So you can keep doing that. Did you use any other phone for podcasts and music, GPS to kind of keep track of some things? Any other tech or any other gadgets that were helpful or handy as you were?
Well, I started off with a lot of stuff I ended up not needing. Not camping meant that in Scotts Bluff, I sent back my tent, my camp stove, I had a bunch of freeze-dried meals. Had a way to make coffee. I had a little AeroPress kit to make coffee on the road. I said, I can just throw this all in a box and send it home. And I did. I did that actually twice. I did another round in Kearney. That stuff I didn't need. I didn't need rain gear.
Yeah, right.
It never rained on me.
No.
I had one day where I got a little, a few drops on me.
It could have though. Like in any other year, you would have seen. This was June, right?
Yeah.
When you were so any other year, you would have had thunderstorm threats and maybe even some.
But I also learned if you have a rain jacket and it's and it's raining and it's 85 degrees, you probably don't even want to put it on.
No.
You're just going to get soaked inside of it from sweating. So
now the rain feels good at that point.
At that point, and hey, there's my shower for the day, and now I smell better.
Get some of the salt off. That is kind of the nice
little bit. I'd always be a little crusty at the end of the day. That stuff just kind of builds up on your skin.
It does.
Like, ooh,
it does.
What is that?
Corners here. I'd always get it in my nose.
Stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A lot of that. Down the ears. Every time I got to a hotel, his first thing is a shower.
Yes. And then feels really good too. Like you get in, get clean, get that road dirt off of you, some of those kinds of things.
So if you go through the blog and look at the Tour de Nebraska section, that I was tent camping every night because I had already paid for a service for that. And some of those nights were really hot. Like it was still over 90 degrees at 10 p.m. And there's nothing you can do but just kind of lie there. But they had showers there in a truck. There was a truck that showed up every night at wherever we were staying. And they've got 4 doors. Each door has 6 showers in it. So there's 24 shower stalls inside this truck. The water's hot. They got heaters in the back. And there it is. And God, it felt amazing. You've been riding 60, 70 miles and you're in this stupid little truck thing, but it just feels, it's the best feeling in the world. You got hot water and you can hear 8 other people around you going, that feels so good.
Did you find age-wise, is this an older age demographic doing this? Some young kids out there, a mix? Who's doing this?
That Tour de Nebraska I was on the younger side. They got a few people over 80.
Wow.
But most were in their 60s and 70s, mostly because I think people who are working don't have time to take a week and just go riding.
It's a lot like RAGBRAI, right? Which Tony had mentioned. He's watching video RAGBRAI annual. That's a big deal here in Omaha. So a lot of Omahans will do RAGBRAI, and that's a long trip across Iowa. But it's a party too.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I think for me that would be a much bigger group than I would want to ride with. This Tour de Nebraska is 400 to 500 riders, so it feels a little more like a family. There aren't lines everywhere you go.
Yeah.
I think with RAGBRAI, you just overwhelm these little towns.
Well, it's gotten kind of Woodstockish in a lot of ways, and it's become an event. Like so many people have done it, it's become an event where kids grow up with hearing about RAGBRAI, and you got to do it just at least once. And so folks, they'll prepare for it for 6 months, and it really is a big gigantic party. I mean, it's gotten over the last 10 or 15 years, it's kind of gotten out of hand. It's too many riders, and they, like you said, they come into a small town and they just overwhelm it.
There were some people on the Nebraska ride that were heading to RAGBRAI a few weeks later.
Yeah.
And when I saw the weather they were getting, I think it was ungodly hot this year. I was like, man, I'm glad I'm not doing that one.
Yeah, we had a bad summer. It was really bad. It's not, summers have gotten really, really hot out here. Yeah.
Denver too.
Yeah.
We've had more 90+ degree days than we've ever had this summer.
Would you do it again, John?
Not that route.
Okay.
I think I've seen enough Nebraska cornfields and cows
and Iowa
and grain elevators. Oh yeah.
Yes, yeah. It's the same thing. It's the same country.
Small town, grain elevator, feedlot, cornfield, repeat.
Yeah.
It's just, that's Nebraska all the way through, and flat as a pancake for most of it. So just nothing against Nebraska, but I think I want something a little more interesting.
Right.
So I've already decided, I think, where I'm going to go next summer, and that is I'm going to circumnavigate Lake Michigan.
Oh.
So I'm going to take the train again back out to Milwaukee, start there and go north up through Sheboygan, Green Bay, wrap around the top part of the lake, come back down through Michigan, then back up around Chicago. When I looked at that, I thought, well, that's not a lot of time. It's 960 miles. It's a big lake.
Yeah.
So, but I think the weather will be a little cooler.
Yeah.
The lake views are going to be a little more interesting than cornfields.
Yep.
So I think the
Flat for
photography will
sure.
be a little bit better. It
Very
isn't
flat.
hilly. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not hilly,
Yeah.
but I think it's going to be pretty. I have been a Packer fan for
Oh,
since I got married.
yeah.
And so I'll probably stop at Lambeau Field in Green Bay and give that a look over, maybe take a tour of the field. Mackinac Island, if anyone's been there, will be another highlight. I can't cross that bridge on a bike, apparently.
Oh,
They used to have a service that would come and get you and put you in a trailer and take you across because they don't want bikes mixing with the cars.
makes
That's
sense.
been gone since COVID. So
Mm.
at this point, my only option is to take a ferry to Mackinac Island and then take another ferry over to the Lower Peninsula.
Could you Uber exit? Like,
The other way to do it would be to hang around a gas station on one side and
yeah,
hope somebody with a truck is willing
yeah,
to take you over for $20 or something.
yeah.
That's probably not a bad plan either. There's a lot of people up there with trucks.
Yeah. I was gonna say maybe even in the community, there's someone close by,
It would not surprise me.
where you could arrange a quick little meetup to take you across.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, let me know.
We'll find out.
Maybe we can broker that or figure out a way to get you across there for sure. So that'll be next summer. Is that what you're thinking?
Yep. There's a bike ride June 18th. I've done this one many times, mostly when I lived there, called the Fat Tire Tour of Milwaukee. Basically a pub crawl on bikes.
Mm-hmm.
They go through about 5 different bars. They have 400 to 500 riders. So you want to see a crowded bar with 500 bikes piled up outside.
How many ambulances do they need after
Never.
in the evening?
No, I did see a guy break his arm once.
Yeah,
He was trying to ride up the
yeah,
steps at Walski's
yeah, yeah.
and didn't make it. I don't think they called an ambulance. I think he just went somewhere.
Oh,
He wasn't feeling much pain at that point. But I'll do
feel
that
it the next
ride,
day.
and then the next morning head off for Sheboygan
Okay.
and make my way around.
We have one here called the Taco Ride, and it's
Mm.
from the trailhead of the Wabash Trail in Council Bluffs. You probably went you were within a mile of it when you were biking out here for
Probably.
sure. And then it goes down 10 miles maybe to I forget the name of the town. I should know it, but I don't. And there's a little taco place down there, and they'll get hundreds of riders on a Tuesday night to go down for tacos. And everybody in the margaritas are like $1 or $2 or something. They're super cheap. And there's always then you bike, you have to bike back up the trail, right? To get to where everybody parked. And there's always accidents. There's there's always somebody in the ditch or whatever. They just have a good time. They have a good time doing it. Will you do anything different as you're making this trip? Things that you learned going across Nebraska and Iowa and a little bit of Minnesota?
Well, I won't take as much crap with me.
Yeah.
That's an easy one. I think I'm going to try and take a full DSLR next time. I wasn't real happy with I have a pretty nice phone. It's probably got one of the best cameras you can get. It's a Galaxy S21 Ultra. It's a nice phone, nice camera for a phone.
Right.
But what I really missed was being able to zoom in and take raw photos and kind of play with the.
Yeah.
Are
Are you normally a photo guy? Do you take a lot of pictures?
I take a lot. I'm the sort of de facto photographer for my school where I work. So a lot of them are just of kids that are not mine. But I only do that because I enjoy it and it's fun. And I have the ability to I think take some decent pictures.
Yeah.
And it's funny. You ask teachers for, hey, take some pictures of your kids, and what they send me is, oh, it's just garbage. It's from a 5-year-old phone and it's all blurry, and you're like, I can't do anything with that. It's hard to adjust and make it look good. So
yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'll do it myself.
Well, and it's fun. And there's something I think Mike Howard taught us. There's something about how to frame up a picture and how to get it right and what you're looking for and perspective and what's in the background, right? And a lot of those things.
And as good as I thought my photos were, I don't think I did a good job with the blog getting them to where they're like, you couldn't pull up a bigger version of that.
No.
I did something screwed up there that wasn't what I wanted to do. And I don't know if it's because I was doing it all on a phone. I might take something bigger to work on next time. But what I would like is that people can click on it and have the full size picture, so they kind of get the full effect.
Yeah, maybe even upload them to so some go to the blog, but you upload most of them to a photo sharing site, whatever Google or whatever, where you can share that album out as part of the blog, so folks
I
can.
could do that with SmugMug. I've got an account there.
Yeah,
that would
it's
work.
good way to do it. That way, folks can kind of follow you there and get the full versions if they want. That's kind of fun. That's kind of fun
I
to
think
do.
it's easier though if you're reading along, boom, there's the picture, and then you keep reading. It's a little more impactful,
Yeah,
I think, than having to go to another site to see them.
yeah,
So
yeah. Well,
we'll see.
you could
That's
do
one thing
both.
I might try and fix next summer.
You could do both. How long do you think it'll take you to go around? 3
That one's
weeks?
shorter. It's going to be about 3 weeks.
3 weeks?
My wife was not real pleased with how long I was gone. I think she worried a fair amount. Being able to see where I was helpful, but you never know when a truck's going to come along and knock me into the ditch. And
Yeah.
it never happened, but she's
No, I
always thinking
understand.
that something like that might happen.
I understand. We had the pastor at our church do the full length across the U.S. Last summer, 2 summers ago. I think 2 years ago now. No, 3 years ago now. I think
Did you ask him why?
And it's something he always wanted to do. It was just one of those. He's a biker, always been a cyclist, and that's the kind of that when you do it, that's kind of the thing.
It's a bucket list item for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, it is. It's for me, it was like running a full, or I even contemplated running some ultras, and I was by the time I got there, I was too old and too beat up, and I was like, yeah, no, I think my running days are over. But
I've decided if I'm going to try and do the whole thing across, I'll just wait till I'm retired and do it then.
Yeah.
I've got all the time in the world.
Yeah. Let's stay on the bike theme with this. And in the show notes, you talked about selling some vehicles to get a e-bike. Am I reading that correctly? Is this like, so you're giving up a vehicle to get something that's talk to me about a little bit about these.
My wife and I had 2 cars, both about 5 to 7 years old. We traded both of those in on a new car, and that's hers. And then I got this thing that's on your screen now. It's an e-bike from Turn, which is a U.S. company, although the bikes are made in Taiwan. Nothing's made here in the U.S. anymore. It's not a cheap bike. If people go look at it, the base version is about $4,500, but it will haul an amazing amount of cargo. Small kids, even large kids if you want. I have put several bags of mulch on it. I brought home a couple of Adirondack chairs one day from the hardware store. I do all my grocery shopping on that. That's my car. And the only time I do get into a car now is to go up to our mountain place, which is, near 100 miles away. So that's a little far for an e-bike. I just consider this my way of getting around Denver. And Denver's not a hilly city. It's flat. People who haven't been here think it's mountainous. But no, the mountains are several miles west, and we're really in the plains, so it's pretty flat. And this does just great. I put 2 batteries on it. It's got a carbon belt drive. I got some upgrades from the base version, but I love the thing, and this is now my car. So when you think about how much it costs, if you're replacing a car with it, that's not that much. And all I have to do is plug it in maybe once a week and let it recharge, and I'm good for another week of zooming around town.
Would you favor one of these over a moped? Because it's about the same, about the same price, about the same, the difference is you're actually still pedaling on these, right? They're electric.
It's a pedal assist.
Electric assist.
There's 3 versions of e-bikes out there, 3 classes they call them. Class 1 is what I have. It's a pedal assist, and the assistance cuts out at 20 miles an hour. The bike doesn't push you at all unless you're pedaling. Class 2 has a throttle. They also cut out at 20 miles an hour, but you don't have to pedal anything. Another teacher at my school has one of those, and I saw her going along the street one day. She wasn't pedaling at all. She's just zooming along. I'm like, is that thing just, you don't have to pedal? She's like, no, I just twist. It's like, okay, that's more like a moped or a scooter. Then there's class 3, which is the same as mine, except it goes faster. They'll do 28 miles an hour. I don't think there are any of those that are cargo bikes at this point. I'm sure one will come along soon. These things are exploding in terms of.
Was it hard to get with I know with COVID supply chain, bikes have been hard to find. Was this difficult to get?
Believe it or not, it got held up due to that stupid ship in the Suez Canal. The Evergreen. Was it
really?
not Evergreen, Evervision? What was it called?
I don't know.
Ever something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been about 4 weeks. Ended up being close to 2 months.
Yeah.
But I've got it. I'm super pleased with it. It's just it's what I hop onto now to go anywhere.
That's a good looking bike.
Mm-hmm.
It is a good looking.
You're asking about the comparison to like a scooter. I can haul way more than any moped or scooter could.
Really?
I've got big panniers, big bags on the side. I can put 4 grocery bags in there, and then I can pile stuff above that on the back, on the top. Then I've got a rack in front that I can put more stuff. That rack in front holds a full case of wine.
Oh, that's important.
I know this from experience. It holds a full case of beer just as easily. You can just keep piling things on here and there, and all you need to keep things steady if you get past where things are just going to sit there as bungee cords, and everything's nice and tight.
Is it still a workout? I mean, do you get a little bit of cardiovascular on this thing?
Yeah. And there's 4 levels. You can drop down to the lowest level and you're pushing pretty hard, or you can go to the turbo and you're pedaling, but you're still zooming. Mm-hmm. So whatever kind of workout you want, you can still get it. The downside with going to turbo is if I wanted to keep going, I think I've probably got 45 to 50 miles of range around Denver. If I dropped it down to the economy version, I think I could get close to 100.
Economy being on the bike you currently have, the setting.
Lowest setting. I think it was economy, touring, sport, turbo. So I usually say, I'm always in a hurry, so I usually say turbo boost get and just pop it up to
and take off. Mm-hmm. And take off. And so the assist stops at 20 miles an hour. So if you're going down a hill and you're going 20 already, there's no need. Is that a little safety feature too? So you don't go too fast? I mean, 20s, I mean, is it safety, or is it just so they don't have to classify it as a?
I think it's safety mostly. Okay. I think above 20, the ones that go 28, and there's a lot of homebrewed stuff out there that'll go a lot faster than that. My neighbor's got one that he takes up in the mountains south of here, and that thing will do upwards of 40 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I would just get in trouble with something like that and hurt myself or kill myself.
Yeah. That's fast. That's very fast.
For traffic, this is fine.
Yeah.
It allows me to merge into traffic more easily. There's one spot my way home where I have to make a left turn. There's always cars coming. But at 20, I can kind of get in there a little more easily than when I'm doing 12 or something if I'm pedaling on my own on a different bike. So,
Andrew makes a good point in the chat. He says it'd be nice if it charged the battery when you went downhill. Are there regenerative braking options?
I have heard there are some of those out there. This one isn't one of them, but there are some of those that actually add a little bit.
Yeah.
The other thing I thought about is, if you put a couple of big solar panels on the back, would it charge itself and be able to go longer? Some people have asked me would I tour on something like that, and probably the answer is no. It's too heavy. It weighs 70 pounds.
Yeah.
If you get to a point where you don't have any battery left, you suddenly have a much heavier bike.
It's a little bit of work.
And then you're just miserable.
Yeah.
Funny story. On that tour to Nebraska, a guy that I met on the last one who's also from Denver, he shows up. He's got this new specialized e-bike, and he's like, "Yeah, check out my new electric bike." And I'm like, "Jimmy, that's pretty cool." Day one, I catch up with him at lunchtime, and it's some firehouse in a little town. And I said, "Where's your bike?" "Oh, it's over there." "Is it plugged in?" "Yeah, I have to recharge it. I ran out of juice a couple miles away from lunch."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Okay, so how long do you have to charge that before you can go again?" maybe another hour. So he quickly ran into the downside
Right.
of doing that.
Right.
He actually, that day we had a headwind, so he actually ran out again before getting to our endpoint. So he was not a happy guy that day.
Yeah.
So the next day he's all like, okay, I'm going to use the lowest setting and I'm going to pace myself. And it was just funny watching him go off morning number one and, yep, see you guys, and zooms off. And then you catch him and he's all like, yeah, it's ran out of juice.
The tortoise wins the race on that one.
But yeah,
Is there much maintenance to those, John? Do you have to do, is it
no, this one, no, you just plug it in every couple of days. It's got a carbon belt drive, so that takes the place of a chain. So it doesn't even have, grease on the chain or anything. It's pretty maintenance free.
belt? It's a belt, like okay.
Yeah, some motorcycles have those.
Yeah.
It's also got a continuously variable transmission to adjust the pedaling speed. So you can just twist that up or down as you feel like you want. It's pretty bulletproof. There's really nothing you need to do to it. It comes with a 10-year warranty, believe it or not. I think the normal warranty is 5 years, but then he said if you go on and register, give them all your info and agree to their emails, they'll make it 10 years. I'm like,
Wow.
Fair trade.
Yeah.
So it's a 10-year warranty, and so I just take it in every 500 miles or so, and he looks it over and says, yeah, looks fine.
So they have a dealership or like a store. You didn't order this on the internet. You bought it local.
No, there's a company called Rad Power Bikes that makes they're growing like nuts right now, but it's sort of a direct to customer model. They will ship you a bike in a box.
Yeah.
Mostly put together. You screw a few things in and you're good to go. They're much cheaper. You can get, pretty nice bikes from them for under $2,000, maybe even down close to $1,000, I think, for some of them. This one, they go through a dealer network. They're a little more controlled. I think when I go in next time, he's going to upgrade the software on my Bosch motor because they've actually put out some firmware upgrades for that. So there's, like everything else in the world, it needs firmware updates.
Yeah.
So I kind of appreciate that level of support. He's a guy that I know anyway. My son used to work for him at a bike co-op near here. So we've known each other for several years. So
yeah,
real nice guy, and I'm happy to throw some business his way.
Do you worry about weather on that thing? Does it affect like if it's raining, do you just put gear on, use the wife's car?
No, I ride through the wintertime. The only thing I worry about is ice.
Yeah.
Falling down's not fun.
No.
But I will ride through snow and rain. I've got enough jackets and gear and stuff. And the bike's fine. It doesn't care.
Yeah. Looks pretty beefy.
Mm-hmm.
Looks pretty beefy, pretty wide tires. They're not the super fat ones, but they look pretty
They're
pretty
20
wide.
inches, but I think they're over 2 inches wide. So they're pretty large. Yeah. And there's shocks on the front, so it's a pretty smooth ride.
Yeah, it looks good. Do you clip in or on the pedals or just whatever you're wearing? Okay.
With the assist, you really don't need to have that clip in where you're pulling up. You're not climbing hills with that level of effort. So you really really don't need them.
Would you take it up a pretty good hill if you needed to?
Yeah. In fact, there is a monster hill where we have our mountain cabin. We're way down in a valley from Estes Park. So I'm going to take it up there soon and just try this. There's a grocery run to the grocery store. It's about 12 miles round trip, but there's about 1,000 feet of climbing in the first half a mile from our house, including some nasty switchbacks. So I want to try it on that and see how she does.
Yeah.
I see actual racers using that hill sometimes to train. They go up and they go slow because it's really steep.
Yeah. Okay. So say you get up to the top and you've expended your battery, and is it pretty easy to coast? Could you coast back or get back?
Oh yeah. Coasting's easy. Yeah. You just turn the motor off, and even if the motor's on, coasting is, if you're not pedaling, if you're just coasting, it doesn't do anything. It just rolls.
Just like a regular bike. It's heavy because you got big batteries in there, right?
But I don't think my battery would run out that quickly. It would.
Yeah.
I just
where do they put the battery on these things? Where is it physically on the bike?
If you pull up the picture, it's right in the midsection.
I'll pull it up again here. Give me just a second. Do you have the yellow one that I'm showing here, or what did you get?
Blue.
Okay.
It's a slightly different model than this one, I think. Oh no, that's the right model. Yeah.
Is it this?
That black thing right in the middle there? Yeah.
Yep.
And I have two. I paid for an extra. Each of those batteries are $1,000. Yeah. They're not cheap, but it sits right behind the first one. So in that little gap right there.
Down in here in this little gap, right?
That thing right behind the crank.
Right.
That little thing sticking up from the
right
bottom.
Down here. Right down here.
The battery just jacks into there.
Okay.
And the cool thing is with two batteries in, you can just plug either one in, and it charges both. They're both hooked up. You don't have to say use battery 2 or use battery 1. It's just all one system.
Now this is it looks like the system's made by Bosch, but it looks like they got some Shimano. And back from my days of biking when I was a kid, that was a big deal. And so it looks like it's kind of they're really, it looks like they're mixing kind of motorcycle, bike, battery technologies together to kind of really make this thing work.
I think slightly so. The brakes on the front, I think, are more motorcyclish. It's a disc brake system.
Yeah.
There are Shimano parts on there. There's
you can see the derailleur back here on the back. I mean, that's old school right there, right?
Yeah, mine doesn't have one. It's got a CVT up where that is, and there's nothing hanging down there.
Yeah,
it just goes to that belt.
What's your model? What model do you have?
The upper right, GSD S00LX, I think.
This one.
Yeah.
That one. Yeah.
There we go. That's the one.
That's a good looking bike. I if they weren't $8,000.
You don't have to spend that much.
No, I know. I know.
Yeah, 65. No, that's with a single battery. Yeah, dual battery. Mine was right around 7 with tax, so it wasn't quite that high. Must be some other difference, or maybe maybe the price has just gone up in the last few months.
It's very possible. With everything else that seems to be going up in price. One of the things I'm noticing is the flexibility in the cargo carrying. So you can get a carrier that gives you really max for carrying things, and then they have a couple people carriers in there, so that it's comfortable for a second person to sit on it, or to have up to 2 children on it, right? In car seats.
I've got several parents at my school coming to work or to come into school with kids on the backs of, not this particular one. There's one other guy who has one of these. Most of them have different brands. There's a bunch of them, but they're bringing their kids on e-bikes, and you can stick a baby seat on the back of that. You can just have a kid sit there. I've actually got a cushion on the back of mine because I occasionally give kids rides. We've got a little incentive program at our school. If you get an award for doing something really good or really cool, you get to pick something off of a list of prizes, and each teacher has a different prize. Mine is you get to sit on the back of that and ride around the neighborhood.
Nice.
With mom or dad's permission.
Yes, of course.
And a helmet.
Yes.
And
a liability waiver.
Yeah, when they get to that. But I have a cushion on the back of them for that. And then underneath my saddle, there's actually 2 handhold spots, so they can grab onto that and not just sort of be trying to balance.
That would make sense. That would make sense to have that almost like another handlebar.
And there's sideboards there. Their feet are on a nice flat platform aside too, so it's pretty stable.
Yeah, you can kind of see those if you're looking for them. They're down. Well, I'm not showing the picture anymore, but they're down there, kind of at the bottom. That's a good little. Does it fling much water or as you're riding
fenders?
Yeah.
No, there's fenders front and rear, so you don't get wet from the bike.
That's nice.
Unless you go through something pretty deep, but then you're going to get wet anyway.
Does it have any other tech on it that's interesting? I mean, listen, it's got a lot of tech that's cool, right? I mean, the batteries and the shifting and
it's got a computer. It's got a I mean, it'll tell you what your range is, how many miles left you have.
Yeah. Like a dashboard.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Nothing else technical on it. Most of the tech is built into the motor and the batteries.
If you're listening to the audio on this and you want to check these out, Turn Bicycles, TERN bicycles.com. If you want to go out there and take a look and see some of they're cool. Like I'm looking at this, I'm like, man, these are kind of cool. Maybe I'm selling my legacy.
there's something besides the GSD. I can't remember the name of it, but there's a smaller model, and they've made folding bikes for years. They have folding bikes that have batteries, and some that don't. But they've been in the bike arena for quite a while.
And you said they're out of Singapore?
Company's in California, but the bikes are all made in Taiwan.
Okay, Taiwan. There you go. Yeah, they do have a lot of different. The Verge. They've got a Node model. It looks like they've got a BYB that looks more like the folding kind. Like I think this was the company that I think pioneered the ability to fold it like into a suitcase size and you take it on a commute or something like that.
If you've ever heard of Dahan, that's another folding bike company. I believe the guy who started Turn is from that family. So it's sort of been a family business for a while. He came out of that family and started his own company. But Dahan, Bike Friday is another one that makes folding bikes. The big one that's been known in England for a long time is Brompton. That's sort of like the Rolls Royce of folding bikes. Last time I was in London, you'd see those flying along the street. Guy in a three-piece suit riding his Brompton with a little briefcase stuck on the back of it. It was kind of cool. And then you could tell he gets to his building and folds it up, goes up the elevator, and
becomes a little carrying case. This is showing one of those minis, $2,500, which isn't bad for some of the technology, but 30% smaller than the traditional 20-inch folding bikes. So this is a very kind of a mini. You probably want to put a ton of miles on this, but you know, in a city like London or New York, or you know, where maybe you need to go a little bit farther than just, you know, that's a little bit longer, a couple miles, man. You know, a 3-mile walk or a 3-mile ride is completely different.
My commute's very short. I'm 2 miles from work, and it's almost not, you know, I can do that on this bike in 8 minutes. But when I had to do it on a regular bike, it was more like 12 to 15.
Yeah. And a little more sweaty.
I wouldn't want to walk it. A little more sweaty, yeah. Especially on these 90-degree days.
Yeah. Tony says I can't buy one of these until I've bought the vacuum cleaner. I've been talking a lot about the robot vacuum cleaner a lot these days. So, I don't know, Tony. This is the problem with being a host on this show. As I hear all these stories from people, and I'm like, man, I'd really like to have one of those. That would be cool. I do. My bike, I haven't had a bike for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years now. And I've been using the blue, well, here in Omaha, they're blue, B-Cycle. That's the rent-a-bike. They're everywhere. And they've survived during the pandemic. I don't know how they did. I think they're funded. You know, they've got some other folks funding them. But
well, here in Denver, the other thing you see everywhere is these scooters that are rentals.
And Uber acquired Lime, so now in your Uber app you can rent the Lime ones we have.
They're kind of annoying in some ways because people travel in packs. You see like 8 people out on a bar crawl or something doing zipping along. It's like, okay, I got to wait for all of you to go by. Or the other thing I find annoying is people will leave those things anywhere.
Oh, for sure, they encourage you to.
There's a spot where I have to cross the busiest street in Denver to get home. And every few weeks, somebody will leave one right in the center of that crosswalk thing where I can't even get to the stupid button to push it to get across. It's just like, really? You can't just move it to one side a couple of feet so it's not in my way?
Yeah.
They don't seem to care. They're done.
No, we have.
I know somebody comes and gets it after a while, but
they move them around. They pull them at night. They come and get them and charge them, right? Type deal. We, during the College World Series here in Omaha, we get 1 million people to show up for that thing, and they're downtown.
That was going on when I was there.
Everywhere. Oh yeah.
I was like, why is my I forget what hotel I was in, but why is it almost $400 tonight?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I realized I got in there in the lobby and there's people showing up in these uniforms. I'm like,
Yep.
oh, that's what,
Yep.
okay. I've been
You,
seeing that
you
on TV.
came.
That's what's going on.
Yep, you hit it. You hit the most expensive time to be in Omaha
Mm-hmm.
when you came through. You get a little outside Omaha and you're fine. And
Yeah.
but it is the whole city, those scooters are everywhere and they just drop them. You
Mm-hmm.
just see them all over and then somebody comes by and picks them up. So I have yet to try one. I should probably get out there. I have used the B cycles, and our B cycles do have electric assist.
Mm-hmm.
So those are I kind of we were talking about this in the pre-show. I kind of need to get back into my biking. I wish they would come all the way down in here to Bellevue, where I live, so I could bike. It'd be great if I could grab one, walk to one, grab it, bike into work, drop it. That would be great.
If you
Not
had
not
your
today.
own e-bike, Jim, you
I
could
know,
take
I
it to
know,
work, 3 days a week, whatever you like, and leave
I
your
know,
car at home.
I know. I could. You have to trade that legacy that I just got in on it. John, one more thing. During the early days of the pandemic, we did a bunch of shows on school districts and
Mm.
how they've handled it and what they did, and we talked about moving. Some districts took hotspots out for their students and some of those kinds of things. We're on the other side of it for the most part. I'm being kind of optimistic a little
Yeah.
bit. We still got some things to work through, but we're kind of through a lot of it. Anything tech from a tech perspective in light of that you work in a school district, as you think about the technology you guys deployed, any big lessons you guys learned out of that, that
Yeah.
you'll take forward?
Um, yeah, it was, I, I'm not sure that I have solutions for these yet, but the amount of breakage and damage was just off the charts. And half of it is these things are in kids' homes. And in some homes, the parents treat it like, okay, this is a school resource. It's for school. You're going to use it for that, and then you're done. And in others, it's like, yeah, take it to your room, watch YouTube all night, and do what you want with it. And we had stuff come in, and what's wrong with it? It got milk in the keyboard. It got milk in the keyboard.
Yeah.
That happened all by itself. You mean you let your kid eat breakfast on the
Right.
keyboard? That's the
Right.
problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
I spent weeks at the beginning of the school year scrubbing, milk, food, crumbs, snot, puke. I don't know what other bodily fluids off of these damn things.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, God, they were just filthy. And we had to get them all back at the beginning of this year. And then in our school, they live in the classroom in a cart, which charges them every night. But getting those carts wired is a giant pain in the ass because all the chargers had to come from home, and then you got to wire each one up, and then it has to stay there. So, decommissioning a cart and pulling all those out again is another pain in the ass. So
Yeah.
it was just so much of that. I think if we had to do this over again, we would try and find a bunch of old ones to send home and not send the new ones home because those are more expensive. I have 500 kids at my school. We probably have about 700 Chromebooks. A couple hundred of those are older, these old Samsungs that are 4 years old or so, and they're kind of slow. But I would never send some of these new ones home again. These new ones have touch screens.
Yeah.
I could repair the screens on the old ones. I can't repair these touch screens too easily. It gets harder. It's like, remember back when you could change a screen on an iPhone
Uh-huh.
in a matter of 20 minutes with a screwdriver and some elbow grease? You can't do that with these newer ones. You need the specialized equipment to pull the damn thing apart because it's all
Now
done
Apple
with
only wants to be the
adhesives.
ones. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of getting that way. So the older ones, you busted your screen. Gee, I can get another one on Amazon for $25 and
Right.
put it in there in about 4 minutes. Done. Now it's that screen's another $100 to order, and then
Right.
replacing it is something I don't even have the tools for, so I got to send them downtown. It's just a pain. So I think if we had to do this over again, we would send old crap home.
Mm.
The other thing we realized, at the beginning of the pandemic, we tried to do remote school and school in person at the same time. So I scrambled around and got cameras and screens for my teachers so that they could see their remote kids at the same time. So they'd have, 15 kids in the room and then 10 more on a screen. Mm-hmm. And the kids are all watching her on a camera. That was a shit show. It did not work well at all. And we actually abandoned it after a couple of months and split out. We had a bunch of special ed teachers, and we said, okay, you're now a third grade teacher. This is your remote third grade class. And now the other teacher does not have to deal with this. They've just got kids in the room.
Yeah.
And that works better, but it did stretch our personnel to the breaking point.
Yeah.
So we never want to go through any of that again. I think at this point we won't have to, because we're really close to having vaccinated kids.
Yep.
I'm in an elementary school. There's all these people running around my school that haven't been vaccinated because they can't yet.
Right.
We're probably just a few weeks away from that. And I'm glad I live in a part of the country where the parents at my school will take them out and get them vaccinated like that very quickly. We're not in a place where they don't think this pandemic is real. So I'm reasonably certain we will never have to get to this point again, but who
never
knows?
know.
Another thing may come along next year.
Another variant,
this has been an interesting job. My first year, we had a teacher's strike. They gave me a 5th grade class for a few days. That was fun. I'm not a teacher. And these were actually what I had was a bunch of GT kids, gifted and talented. They were smarter than me for the most part. So that got a little scary at times.
Yeah.
The next year, the pandemic hit, and then we're still dealing with that. So I keep wondering what's going to happen next year. Every time I think I'm going to get a normal year, something wacky happens.
Are they 100% back in class at this point?
Okay. Yeah, this year they
in
are.
Normal classes and all those things are.
Denver did something interesting. They said, okay, your school is not going to offer remote classes. If you want to keep your kid home and have remote school, we move you to a remote school. You'll have different teachers.
That makes sense.
And you know how many kids out of the 500 we had to do that? 2 decided they wanted a different school with no one they knew. Right. And it was one family. It was a set of twins.
Sure.
And everybody in the school thinks they're probably not doing great. They could really probably do better back in the school. But we've had 6 kids so far be quarantined and have to stay home. One just today, 5 a couple of weeks ago, all at once. But it's working. They go home, they get better, they come back. It hasn't been this transmission in the school that we're aware of, so that's good.
But they're out of school. They're not coming in. You're not offering.
Nope.
Yeah.
I will send a Chromebook home, an old one, if they really want that to do some homework. The family asks for it.
Yeah.
If it's like a 1st or 2nd grader, nobody's even asking for that. We're just send packets home, and we'll just have them do pencil and paper.
Well, hey, kids got chicken pox. Remember when we used to have chicken pox? And
I had that.
And you were out a week, and the teacher sent some homework home, type deal. So
that's exactly what we're doing.
It's those I think those kind of things can kind of come into play. So it's interesting as you're talking about this, and I've spent a lot of time at Gallup talking with folks about hybrid and remote work over the last 2 years, right? We've been at the center of this from a research and polling perspective. And kind of what we found too in the meetings standpoint is what you found in the school. It works best if everybody is remote or everybody's in the same spot. But when you mix them, it's not that you can't do it, but
it's just much harder.
If you get 5 remote and 5 in a room, you get a weird. You get this weird, it's like when you're on the interstate and you roll one window down in the back and you get that, right? It's not balanced, right? You get some pretty terrible meetings. You get high engagement in some areas and low engagement in others, and you can't, and sometimes people forget there's folks on the phone and, we've kind of, what's been interesting is we've done some stuff where, so we've said, okay, most people aren't in. Let's just go 100%. Even if you're in the office, get on your camera, right? And get on a headset or whatever. And I work with some amazing people that nobody fights it. They'll just, they'll come in, camera on, sometimes camera off, but mostly camera on. And everybody participates. And that's been something we've seen, like 100%. Again, you could do it in a hybrid scenario, right? But
what we found is it was really hard for the kids who were remote to participate at the same level as the kids in the room.
Yeah.
And at first the teachers were like, well, I don't want them to be able to interrupt because we've got a couple kids who that's all they'll do. Right. And they'll just be disruptive. And then the kids in the room aren't getting anything. And then the parents of the kids who are remote were sometimes watching, and it was like, yeah, you're not giving them a chance to. It's like, it just became hard. And my wife's company, I think, has gotten to the same point. She's been remote here at home since last March, but they are now go into the office 2 days a week, or I'm sorry, 2 days a month at this point, and every other day is remote. But those go into the office days is everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone's in the office. Yep. They do things that way, and then everyone's back remote.
Yep.
Kind of what you said for your company.
We're trying to do that too. Like Tuesdays and Thursdays are kind of those days. I was in today. It's kind of funny because I was in today and was trying to troubleshoot an issue and sent an email to one of my team members. She called me back on video, and it was so weird. I'm talking to her. I was thinking she's home. I'm in the office, so I was thinking she's home. And then a coworker just comes in the camera, and I was like, at first I was like, hey, wait a minute, what is he doing there? And then I was like, are you guys in the office? And they're like, yeah. They're literally just down the hall from me.
What are we doing over there?
And we're doing it. I could have walked over there in 2 minutes, but I didn't. I've gotten so used to firing up the camera here or firing up the camera in the office. Now, listen, we've been doing this camera stuff for a long time. So I like it this way, John. So for me, it's not even some of my coworkers won't turn their cameras on, and I desperately want them to, but I stopped asking them a while ago. It's just like, hey, whatever works for you. But I've been doing this a very long time, and I don't even think, like today, I don't even think twice. It was just, I remember that moment I have thinking like, what is he doing there? Why is he at his? Oh, I was like, you're here? And they're like, yeah, we're up. I'm like, where are you in the building? I've never seen this. And they're like, oh yeah, we took over this part of this floor and we're doing this kind of thing. And I was like, oh, well, I could just walk over and like, well, we're doing this thing, we're doing this thing via video now. Let's kind of get it done. But it was one of those funny realizations. We were all in the same building, all on video, and they were sharing, which is interesting. Typically we'd put a headset on, but they just, they were just playing it out through the speakers. I could hear both of them pretty well. Whatever they had from a microphone was working pretty well. And you're like, okay, well that works. We're 200 feet from each other, and we're, that's kind of the conditioning we've got now.
It reminds me of when I caught my daughter and her best friend in the back of our car. It's like, it got real quiet back there. I'm like, what are you guys doing? They were texting back and forth. Yeah. So you guys could just turn your heads and talk to each other, right?
No, they didn't want you to hear.
That's exactly it. It was their way of having a private conversation. But the absurdity, I think, to a guy my age was just like, why can't you just talk? No. That's back when I wasn't even texting, which was a pretty long time ago.
Well, my kids used to text on the 9 key, on a 9 keypad under the table, not even looking at it. Like,
oh God,
so we'd be at dinner, and I could, my son, you could kind of tell, the look on his face, he was concentrating, but he could, they could, man, they were good at that. And, but those days we paid for text messaging. So
it was a year or a month. My daughter blew past her limit by like several hundred texts, and had our bill came, and it was like $300 more than it should have been.
Yeah,
she had to pay that off.
It's like, what are you doing? How many texts are you sending a day?
What do you mean you need to send 1,500 texts in a month? What is that?
Exactly.
How many a day is that? That's insane.
Well, now we have unlimited minutes and unlimited text, and I send 5.
Yeah.
It's well, because think of all the other ways we have to communicate. Like I mean, the family who was just rattling my cage at the beginning of the show on Facebook Messenger, so I was getting ding, 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 and I'm like, stop! I have to mute them because they sense that I'm doing something like at work or whatever, and they just start hammering the chat, right? But you think about the Messenger or WhatsApp or all the other ways there are to communicate with each other. I just don't even send that many text messages,
At work, I've got 2 different emails for that. I've got Google Chat. There's a couple other apps people reach out to me on, but most of my teachers just text me because that's the quickest thing.
Yeah.
I got one down the hall who will just text 911. I mean, she's got something technical going on. She doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
So I have to turn my little siren on and go down the hallway.
Well, and it works however it works to get the job done. I mean, it doesn't, it's interesting as I think about the coaches that I work with in our community. They all have different, some have these, LinkedIn groups that they're a part of. Some of them have stayed on Facebook. Some of them use a messenger. Some of them are, have done some things on LinkedIn, and, you're like, okay, it's just whatever works. We landed on Facebook Messenger as our family chat. I tried leaving it several times. Let's just be really clear. But my wife keeps adding me back in. So I'm like, I don't know. Yeah.
Did you have a really blissful day the other day when Facebook was down?
I got a lot of stuff done. Let me tell you, I didn't have people bothering me. It was super great. I get probably, I probably get 4 or 5 support questions through Facebook Messenger from our community every day. Wow. So, I mean, it's work. For me, it's a form of work. I probably get a couple emails. I probably get a couple messages on Facebook. I probably get a couple messages on LinkedIn. That's kind of, they know, and I've given them permission to contact me directly. So, that's just, it's kind of an all day. I'm going to need to figure out, I've got a bunch of projects where I just need to buckle down and and typically during a day I just can't do them, so I'm gonna have to figure out a way to hammer some of they're in the heart of the pandemic. Things got really quiet for me because our coaches didn't have anything to do, and it just got really quiet. And June, July, and August, I cleaned up. Like I got projects done that I never thought I'd get done. And as this year has gotten busier, I'm finding less time to get some of that kind of work done. So, John, thanks for saying yes to this. I reached out to our Patreon folks. If you want to support the show, theaverageguy.tv/Patreon. Thanks for your support, and just said, hey, if I'd love to have you, anybody who's a Patreon subscriber on the show, and you said, well, I don't have that much to talk about, but I'll come on. And we talked for, like we always do, talked for an hour and a half, and it's always great. Let me say thanks for being a part of the community. I ran out of water, which is I need some, and I don't have any beer in my emergency fridge. That's a bad sign.
Poor planning there.
But very poor planning. Thanks for the support. Thanks for hanging around the community as long as you had. You've always been awesome, and so thanks for being a part of the meetups. Hopefully we'll do a meetup in Omaha. We're still shooting for that. I'm trying to get the facility locked down, and
count me in.
Always appreciate that. Always a great conversation. Hang tight for 1 second. And
not sure I'll bike there. I might use a car.
Yeah, you might want to, or at least take the train. You could,
especially if you have it in January.
Yeah, not January. Nobody wants to come to Omaha in January.
Nobody wants to visit my sister in Dubuque in January or for Christmas either. She took her years to figure that out.
It's beautiful though that time. Like coming here for Christmas is okay. You just don't want to be here January, February. That's when that's when the bad weather hits. So a couple reminders on our way out. One is a big thanks to Christian over at Maple Grove Partners for supporting Home Gadget Geeks. You could get secure, reliable, high-speed hosting from those folks that you know and trust. Of course, that's Christian. If you need any hosting plans, they start as little as $10 a month for some pretty great hosting. MapleGrovePartners.com. I talk about them all the time. Love to have you. If you need hosting, use Christian. Join the Discord group, theaverageguy.tv/Discord, and we love great conversations going on out there. Just a fun group. And so if you're looking for friendly tech, I'm trying that out as well. You can do that. If you want to leave a message for us, if you got a question, want to leave a message, you can do that. HomeGadgetGeeks.com. There's a little blue button in the bottom right-hand corner, and you can leave a message for us. We'll play it on the show. Find me on Twitter if you want to do it that way, at Jay Collison. Wieger is at Wieger Tech if you want to do it as well. Mike had the night off, and I think he had to take his grandmother to a football game. I think that was his excuse. It sounds like the dog ate my lunch, but okay.
That's the weirdest excuse I've ever heard.
I don't know. That's just what he said. I'm sure he'll set the record straight next week. We are live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, out here at theaverageguy.tv/live. We'd love to have you. If you're listening to the recorded version, and there's, 500-600 of you that do, and we get 15 of you each week, which, by the way, I really appreciate all 15 of you out there in the chat room. I guess we're down to 5 now, but appreciate all of you that are out there. But we'd love to have a few more. Come out and join us live Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, out here at theaverageguy.tv/live. We'll be back next week. I got a bunch more guests lined up, and we'd love to have you come out and join us. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.